Today, we watched democracy in action. We watched history. We saw the process happen, and it was an historic moment. In the fight against the status quo, against the establishment, against the swamp, the fight against those who do not walk the walk in the fight for our country happened today. Just 269 days into his speakership, Kevin McCarthy is out. And just like that, the new Republican Party has spoken. The new Republican Party has asked for change. And the man who kicked it all off on Monday night, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, joins us now. Welcome, Congressman. You are the man of the hour. So we have to ask, we were just listening to Kevin McCarthy with a concession speech. Did you think it was going to get to this way back in January when you said, you know, McCarthy will give you the gavel, but you know what, one vote is all it's going to take going forward? Did you think you were going to have to pull that lever?
No, I never thought we'd be at this moment, Eric, and it's because in February and March, we really saw Speaker McCarthy adhere to the agreement he'd made with House conservatives to try to bring the House of Representatives more in line with what the American people think governing should be, not just wrapping everything up in one big up or down vote with disparate things combined together, stuff that wouldn't otherwise pass if it wasn't lashed onto something else. And Kevin McCarthy broke so many of the promises he made in January, we started to see the House of Representatives revert back to its corrupt old muscle memory of just omnibus bills, continuing resolutions, and more of the same. I remember in January when Kevin McCarthy said that he was going to use the power of the subpoena and the power of the purse. Well, he didn't even send a subpoena to Hunter Biden. The Kevin McCarthy speakership ends 9 months into the exercise without a single request to produce documents or testimony to Hunter Biden. What that shows you is that he wasn't serious about oversight. It was just a puppet show, a side game. We need a new speaker who's going to believe in robust oversight, who's going to send the subpoenas and get the job done. And when it comes to the power of the purse, all we've seen from Kevin McCarthy is a willingness to just build a yellow brick road for the Democrats. He did that on the debt limit. On the debt limit, we didn't even set an upward cap, Eric. Kevin McCarthy negotiated a deal so bad that any amount of debt that the Biden government collects between now and January of 2025, well, that's on the back of our kids and our grandkids here in the United States of America. And when I learned that this guy cut a secret side deal on Ukraine, it was definitely the last straw.
So I have a lot of friends in Congress, as you know. I was texting back and forth all day. A lot of people, whether they voted with you or against you, a lot of Congress people, whether they support you vocally or and publicly or not, a lot of them felt, yes, you did the right thing, but the chaos that may ensue from this moment forward, they don't think it was worth it. How do you answer the critics who say too much chaos, not enough of a plan on the backside of it?
Well, only in Washington is taking a few extra days of votes deemed chaos. Do you know what chaos is, Eric? Chaos is the dollar losing its status as the global reserve currency. Chaos is the greatest nation in the world sitting atop a $33 trillion debt. Chaos is accepting Biden budgets that will lead to $2.2 trillion annual deficits for the foreseeable future, forever. It would take us to a $50 trillion debt. And right now, I mean, U.S. News cited de-dollarization as the #1 economic trend of 2023. More and more countries are moving away from the dollar while we're printing more in the absence of any review on how it's spent. When we just vote for a continuing resolution or an omnibus bill, you're taking one up or down vote on the entire government of the United States. So nothing ever gets really looked at. You see, that may be chaos to some people, but I call it legislating. I do have to offer some pretty sharp criticism of the new pro tem of the House, Patrick McHenry. We met tonight, and he sent us home until Tuesday of next week, Eric. We should be here tomorrow working to elect a new speaker, getting onto our appropriations bills, and engaging in a negotiation with the Senate to get the government funded. But instead, whoa, these people have got to go home and cry for a week? They've got to go do a week of hand-wringing and bedwetting over the fact that Kevin McCarthy isn't speaker anymore? This institution is about more than one man. It's about the job. How about we pass a budget? So McHenry has the power of the speakership now, and literally his first act as the acting Speaker of the House was to send everyone home till Tuesday. That's moving in the wrong direction. We got to get a new Speaker, and we've got to get leadership to understand a sense of urgency that your viewers and the American people all feel.
There is. There's the urgency is you got 42 or 43 days before this continuing resolution expires again, and we're going to be up against another government shutdown. It begs the question, Congressman, if not McCarthy, and you've said you don't want it, I'll ask you again, do you want it? And if not, who is the appropriate candidate for the speakership?
I honestly think we probably have 50 to 100 people in the House who would make a great speaker. I want to see who the candidates are. Obviously, our number 2 is Steve Scalise. We want to check in on his health and see if he's going to be a candidate. Tom Emmer is our whip. We also have some great committee chairs. Jody Arrington is the chairman of the Budget Committee. Imagine if we actually had a speaker who wanted to pass a budget. That would be a remarkable thing. Mike Johnson is my colleague on the House Judiciary Committee. He is someone who can build trust and coalitions across the conference. And the person who leads the largest caucus in the Republican House is Oklahoma's Kevin Hearns. So that's just a few folks who I think might take a look at it. Okay. All great leaders. I could see myself voting for any of them.
We get a new speaker. Will the same rules and the same, I guess, risks come with the gavel to the new speaker that you outlined with McCarthy, or will that be renegotiated? In other words, if the new speaker isn't going to bring the 12 individual bills to you for signing, will they be held accountable?
Yeah, that's the point. This isn't about who the speaker is. It's about the work. The Bible tells us we have to know the tree by its fruit, right? So you can know the House of Representatives by what it's able to do in law to help the American people. And so far, Kevin McCarthy had not put us in a position to succeed. Some of the people I've mentioned, I think, would have the opportunity to do that.
Talk to us a little bit about, we noticed that it required Democrat votes to oust the speaker. One of the knocks you had with McCarthy is that he required Democrat votes to get the continuing resolution passed. Some would say that, well, you use the same method that he was using. Tell us, you're standing there, and you're on the Democrat side of the House, of the floor. Go ahead.
Turns out what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, Kevin McCarthy is the one who architected and engineered the path of working with Democrats. We would not have increased the debt limit in this terrible deal that gave Joe Biden all of the leash that he wanted to harm Americans if Kevin McCarthy hadn't worked with Democrats. We wouldn't have had the continuing resolution that funded the entire government just the same way McConnell and Pelosi had negotiated if Kevin hadn't used Democrats. So I've got to play the hand I'm dealt. I think the House of Representatives will have a Republican speaker. That is a certainty. There's a 0% chance of a Democrat speaker. All the Republicans want a Republican speaker. And the rules that I fought for to get these single subject bills, to have accountability, those rules don't die with Kevin McCarthy's political career. They are still the rules of the House of Representatives. And if others wanted to change the rules, they would have to have 218 votes to do so, which they could do at any time.
Congressman, there were a couple of let's call them surprise votes. A couple of people who sided with you who we didn't think would, or the people who gamed this out, and some people who didn't side with you who thought, in other words, Nancy Mace was a surprise vote with you, with one of the aide. A lot of people said maybe she wants the gavel. She wants to be speaker. Here's why I'm playing here. Lauren Boebert and MTG both went the other way. They said keep McCarthy. This all plays in when you look. I'm a casual viewer. I'm just a reporter.
No, you're not.
I'm watching.
That is the least true thing said.
Well, maybe. But I do know that there were pro-Trump people and anti-Trump people, and I can't get my finger on or wrap my brain around whether this had a Trump feel to it or a Trump input to it, variable to it.
Yeah, this was about the politics of the House of Representatives and our need to get the work done in the House. It wasn't about kind of Trump politics or Trump versus DeSantis politics. We had people as a part of our coalition who had very different views on those subjects. But it's true that sometimes I work with fiscal hawks that might have a different view on the presidential race than I do. I might work with people on President Trump's campaign that don't like what I do in the Congress so much.
So this is
That's
Matt
the nature
Gaetz.
of evolving coalitions.
This is lone wolf Matt Gaetz. You know, there are a lot of people, they say chaos and lone wolf. It's a tough place to be, and sometimes you have to do what you feel you have to do. Before, I just would like to get this to happen just minutes before we came there. McCarthy was asked about you specifically. Listen to how he responded.
If you talk about like a Gaetz, Gaetz came to the whole conference and said, we will never use this. We'll never use this, you know. I mean, this is a man that sat there on the 14th vote and said, okay, I'm going to vote for you next time, and falls back and not. So, I mean, it's just the trustworthiness of a lot of individuals. It makes it difficult. But I do not think, regardless of who the speaker is, that you should have that rule. You know, everybody had it but Pelosi, but it was never used until it started getting used against Boehner. And if the entire other, if you can always count on the other party to vote in a block against it, then you're allowing 4 to 5 people to control whatever. So it doesn't matter even if you have 96%. So that is not a government that works.
Final thought, Matt Gaetz?
Yeah, I thought I would never use the motion to vacate because I thought that Kevin McCarthy wasn't going to go back on an agreement that allowed him to assume the speakership. When he went back on the agreement, that's when we had to use the accountability and enforcement tools that were in that agreement. I believe the House of Representatives will survive just fine without Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. We've got to get to the budget. We've got to get back to work. And frankly, I would ask your viewers to contact their congressman and say, we don't want you guys to go home for a week. We want you in Washington getting the budget sorted out. This is about spending, not personalities, not Kevin McCarthy, though it seems I am on his mind a bit tonight.
I think you are. You may be on his mind for a very long time, my friend. Congressman Matt Gaetz, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric.